doing some thinking this morning. Musical thinking. Don't worry, I'm not gonna bore you with 3 or 4 chords and talk over the music like others might do. Just gonna challenge people to use their noggin a little bit. Maybe to the artist or musician or loved one or family member of an artist or musician or that had never struck it big. As somebody that started playing music as a child and did the whole have a garage band thing as a teenager and a young adult, and ultimately has a studio worth of stuff now in my 30s, I can tell you that I've had a lot of different thoughts and feelings and dreams about music. Not so much about achieving success in some big wide or public eye. It's more along the lines of just making an impact, knowing that something that I've created reached somebody else and hopefully benefited them or made them laugh or smile or whatever it might be. Gave them a feeling where something from my emotions reached somebody else. So we live in a world and a society where everybody expects a certain tier of quality or production or style. But most of us can't really deliver that. Maybe it's not a lack of talent or funds or skill, or maybe it is. Bottom line, most of us just don't have millions of dollars to sink into it. We have a day job, we have a family, we have other commitments that we've got to keep up with. And so music sort of becomes a therapy or a hobby on the side that people do. And so though not everybody gets to tour the world or have a record deal, or even go into some big fancy studio, we're now in a time more than ever where even the average Joe that you see playing at like a local restaurant or a bar or in the community, wherever they're at, playing a few chords, singing some songs, taking requests with the tip jar, that guy has the potential to reach almost as many as these big commercial acts. Because gone are the days that you go into a record store, Walmart, or wherever you go and peruse album covers or look for artists that look interesting, or this is the great new XYZ album or whatever. We can't all be Bono, we can't all be Cher, we can't all be Blink-182. That's probably a good thing, right? Think about it. It's a period now where Apple Music and Spotify and YouTube rule the world. Maybe radio is on in the background somewhere and you're subjected or forced to listen to whatever the top 40 is, but we now have the ability to curate and create playlists far different from what generations before us had. We have everything at our fingertips, millions of songs of varying degrees of quality. And I gotta tell you, I can't tell you how many times I've been playing something on my phone, like Apple Music, and it switches from whatever the mainstream artist is to some no-name, much lower tier group, and it pulls me in right away. And I think it's that vulnerability. There's a rawness. You don't have some producer yelling in your ear saying, it's gotta sound this way, or it's gotta have this substance. You have musicians coming together with a synergy and an excitement to discover something new. And though maybe it's not quite as polished and shiny, it's raw and it's fresh. And I think what I would challenge everybody, whether you're a consumer of music, somebody that creates, somebody that reviews, somebody that talks about it, whatever you're doing with the music ecosystem, encourage people that admire or appreciate it to venture out a little, try new things. Don't just settle for the Coca-Cola. I'm going to use this analogy real quick, and I promise I'm almost done. Sure, there's Coca-Cola everywhere, but how many of us either are on a tight budget or we have other things that are limiting us, and we're forced to drink the Sam's Choice Cola? Is the market saturation that much less? I'm not going to bring up facts or statistics here, but I'm just thinking of how many millions of people are also drinking the Sam's Choice. Everybody knows that the Coca-Cola Classic is better tasting and has millions and millions of dollars more pumped into it on a given basis, but not all of us have that luxury. Guns N' Roses and Motley Crue only come to town once a year, right? But when you're out in the community and you see these local artists playing, you get a lot more opportunity to intersect with these lower tiered musicians. And honestly, a lot of the time, they may be more talented. They're not as polished up because they don't have gobs and gobs of cash and production to mask the humanness. That rawness, that emotion is something special. And so encourage musicians and artists to really do their thing. We now have phones and headphones. I recorded an entire album using an iPad and a pair of Apple headphones, and maybe the quality is not life-changingly good, but I have that, and it's out there, and it exists. It doesn't sound like I spent tens of thousands of dollars. You can tell it's an amateur recording. But how many people have that potential? Right? You got potential right at your fingertips. Make sure that you are giving back as much as you're taking. That's kind of my challenge to all creative people. And people that don't think they're creative, you probably have something that you can give back. So figure out what it is and start to share it. Because you just never know how that might reach somebody else and benefit them or bless their life or change their life. Unlock that potential.